Sarah Scully.
And I'm Rabbe for IFC News. The general election has officially begun. We're going to show you how we got here,
where we're headed, and what to look for this summer.
It's been a wonderful race, the most contentious but also the most exciting in my lifetime.
It is a wacky, wacky election.
Let's keep going. Stay with me. This is a great adventure, and we're going to make history.
At the conclusion of all these contests, people will go back and take a look and say, who's won?
And by the way, I will never surrender.
I remember telling my wife around Christmas time that I'd be gone for January, but it would be over by February 5th, which was Super Tuesday. And I was exactly like the Clinton campaign. I had no plan for after February 5th.
Well, it does seem sometimes a little like what I read the end of World War I was like, where you have the two armies opposing each other dug into trenches, and they are lobbing shells back and forth, but they're not really gaining or losing any ground. Campaigns take people into places they're not expecting to go, and I think this one's taken Hillary some places she wasn't quite expecting.
While John McCain embarked on a general election campaign, Hillary Clinton began to make a comeback with a 9-point win in Pennsylvania.
She was outspent 3-1 here, once again, and she was able to win. Hillary is resilient, and I think what the voters decided is they trust her.
The party looked to the Indiana and North Carolina primaries to break the tie.
This was the last chance for what Clinton was calling a game changer, or the ability of Obama to close the deal. You can pick your cliche, but it didn't happen.
When she failed to catch up in the delegate count, pundits called for her to drop out. Instead, she vowed to stay in the race until either candidate gained the majority of delegates.
People are watching this race, and they're wondering, I win, he wins, I win, he wins. It's so close.
Running out of states in which to compete, Clinton's campaign made a variety of arguments to support her candidacy.
First, let's be clear about the math. Neither Hillary Clinton nor Barack Obama can get to the majority of delegates to the convention on pledged delegates alone.
The first thing you should know is they are that close.
Less than about 2% of the actual vote separates the two candidates.
That's a very close margin.
This race is essentially even.
Neither candidate has enough pledged delegates to win the nomination. That's the fact of the matter.
Every person who votes should really take two things into account.
Who would be the strongest candidate?
Who would be the best president?
Who would be the strongest president?
And who is most likely to be John McCain?
And there's also the question of the popular vote.
But she failed to convince the party.
Do you think the Clinton campaign's been moving the goalposts?
You know, I don't know that. I mean, I think there's an extent when a campaign goes on this long, far longer than any of us ever thought it was going to go on, it's almost impossible not to set different goals.
Clinton pointed out a series of factors, including that she was ahead in the popular vote by her count. But her math involved estimating the total number of individual caucus votes, which is all but impossible. Her next point was that she was winning big in key general election states. And lastly, she argued to seat the delegates from primaries in Michigan and Florida. But the DNC voted to count them in a way that didn't help her.
It was too bad that they felt obliged to try to kind of, I think, make a bit of chaos out of the process. And I'm proud that the Rules and Bylaws Committee has stood firm.
While the Democrats were still contesting the nomination, the general election was proceeding. And Barack Obama was faced with a two-front war. Do you guys feel like you have enough time to prepare a general election strategy as the Democratic nomination still goes on, the race?
Yes. Look, I think that Senator McCain, as I said, is a war hero, and I respect his service to this nation, but he wants to perpetuate policies that have been very damaging to this country.
Although suffering from media neglect, John McCain had the advantage of time to shape and test his message around the country. Here with Steve Dupree, advisor to John McCain. You were there from the beginning.
Yes, I've known John a long time, and we started off strong and then had a tough summer and fall, but he really dug in and picked the campaign up and carried it on his back and went to 101 town hall meetings in New Hampshire and convinced the voters of that state he'd be the best person to be the Republican nominee for president. And it was like having to win a sudden death playoff game week after week, and we did.
President Bush got the Republican attack strategy rolling with a strong rebuke of Obama's message while speaking at Israel's Knesset.
Some seem to believe that we should negotiate with the terrorists and radicals as if some ingenious argument will persuade them they have been wrong all along. We've heard this foolish delusion before.
The fact is that Senator Obama does not have the knowledge or experience to make the judgments. Presidents have to listen and learn. Presidents have to make judgments no matter how unpopular or popular they may be.
John McCain attacks Obama for being too conciliatory and too willing to negotiate. Within 24 hours, Obama's got the response. We've never seen a campaign that is as quick as on its feet as his, and that can make a difference.
If George Bush and John McCain want to have a debate about protecting the United States of America, that is a debate that I'm happy to have any time, any place, and that is a debate that I will win because George Bush and John McCain have a lot to answer for.
McCain's running as a standard bearer for a failed program, both the foreign policy of George Bush and the economic policy, both of which Senator McCain wholly embraces. So he may need a little extra time to figure out how to make this case to the American people.
You've got one of the most unpopular presidents at a time when Americans are so concerned and anxious about the future. I'm not surprised that on Obama's side, all you hear is Bush, McCain, Bush, McCain, Bush, McCain.
Now, one of the main lines of attack the Obama campaign is using is comparing John McCain to George Bush. So McCain is walking the very fine line of distancing himself from Bush with independents, Democrats, but with Republicans actually utilizing Bush's support in fundraising, in campaigning in red states.
We think that a vote for McCain would probably be just like another term for Bush.
McCain is making a real strong effort to try to separate himself from such an unpopular president, but at the same time, he has still embraced many of the issues that Bush has embraced.
John McCain said we're delighted to have his help and his support, and we take it anytime we can get it, and we appreciate it deeply.
Can you talk about your interaction with the president yesterday and the fact that you were seen in public with him for less than 60 seconds? Is that indicative of what we should see the next 6 months, or will we continue to see you two in public?
He came and attended in fact was responsible for a fundraiser. I was glad that he was there. That's all there is to it. There's nothing more.
Meanwhile, the Democratic nomination was finally decided when Barack Obama achieved the number of delegates to make it official. Hillary Clinton's concession was not immediately forthcoming, and it seemed her campaign was bargaining for something more.
I understand that a lot of people are asking, what does Hillary want? What does she want?
I wish you'd stick around.
I'm starting tonight a petition to Senator Obama to convince him to ask Senator Clinton to be on the ticket as vice presidential candidate. And I've not asked her permission to do what I'm doing, and I'm doing it whether she likes it or not, because I think the country needs her as vice president.
We heard from Lanny Davis that there was possibly a petition not associated with the campaign going around to put her on as a VP.
Yeah, well, there have been efforts like that. That's a very counterproductive approach for people who actually want to see her on the ticket to try to jam the presumptive nominee of the party. Nobody likes to be forced into doing something by a petition, and it would make him look weak were he to allow that to happen. In fact, one of Obama's top people told me that if we let that happen, and we don't think that she would strengthen the ticket if we let them force their way on, then we don't deserve to win.
I think she is an extremely smart and pragmatic politician, and the combination of her ability to get some distance and perhaps party elders coming to her and saying, it's over, and for the good of the party and for the good of your legacy, now is the time to get out.
In the end, she stepped aside, surrendering the stage to Obama.
Because of you, tonight I can stand here and say that I will be the Democratic nominee for the President of the United States of America.
I think it is going to be another kind of change versus experience election playing out with, Obama bounding up the steps to the stage, being clearly the candidate of change.
Making empty promises to bring back lost jobs gives nothing to the unemployed worker except false hope. That's not change we can believe in.
This is going to be a close race. I don't think anybody would think anything else. McCain is a formidable candidate, probably the only Republican that would stand any chance of winning in George Bush's shadow. The only one that may have a chance of walking away from George Bush's baggage.
John McCain and Barack Obama each have unique strengths.
The McCain-Obama matchup is very interesting, and we just went through a Democratic primary that was about change versus experience. Ultimately, Obama prevailed largely because this was an electorate that was more interested in fundamental change than in experience. John McCain, obviously you have someone who's much older, that can be a benefit, but it can also hurt him.
They are all really pretty much direct mirrors of each other. Obama's young, new, different, you look at McCain, old, past, and so his strengths of experience and being around the track a few times don't work against Obama, because Obama's inexperience and newness actually turns out to be a plus.
You have to understand what your liabilities are and then not ignore them, but try and figure out how to turn it. John McCain is one of the best at taking a liability and turning it into an asset, and there are people who have questioned his age. And so what does he say? He rather than deny it, he says, I'm older than dirt and I got more scars than Frankenstein.
He said, anybody ever tell you look a lot like Senator McCain? I said, yeah. He said, doesn't it just make you mad as heck?
And, maybe given the challenges that we face today, it's good to have a guy who's been around the block a few times.
I think McCain's strategy should be to sort of take some of that populist anger that Hillary Clinton started to tap into, because he's more likely, I think, to touch that button in a way that's authentic than Obama. Obama's just not an angry guy.
The last two election cycles divided the country along partisan lines, but 2008 has an entirely different landscape.
Well, you've got two candidates that actually have a higher favorability rating than any two presidential candidates at this point. There are a number of people, maybe 20–25%, that would consider voting for both of them at this point, which is very rare. There are Democrats who are looking seriously at voting for McCain, and there are Republicans that are looking at voting for Obama. That doesn't usually happen. You also have a unique appeal of both candidates to the independent vote, which in my mind is critical. Every grassroots Democrat will vote in 2008. Every Republican will turn out in 2008. The battle is for the people right dead center.
Both McCain and Obama appeal to that group of people. Obama has a message that tries to go beyond the partisanship that's gripped Washington, and McCain appeals to that as well. He's, throughout his career, bucked party lines several times on select issues, so he also has a reputation as someone who appeals to independents and moderates.
We're such a polarized country that this year you're going to be walking a fine line between trying to excite your base, but not so overexcite them or pander to them in such a way as you alienate the independents in the middle, and vice versa.
The demographics are different. The electoral college, the map is different. This is such a weird and strange election.
In the past, campaigns put a disproportionate focus on the same handful of swing states, but that could all change in 2008.
It would take a lot to shift a red state or a blue state into purple or across the other color. Obama has the potential, as his campaign argues, to turn states like Virginia, perhaps North Carolina, perhaps some other southern states, Georgia, into blue states, primarily because of an increase in African-American turnout, but also perhaps mobilizing liberals and progressive Democrats.
One of the things that is wrong with looking at the old electoral map and saying you can't win unless you win, these states. Well, yeah, you can. You might be able to if you look at the new electoral map that Obama's opened up. And that's the whole thing. We don't know yet. I mean, somebody's been wrong and somebody's been right. We'll have to find out in November which one it was.
So there you have it. The matchup between John McCain and Barack Obama is going to be unique, to say the least.
So pay attention, because it may very well come down to independent voters.
Tune in next time.
Thanks for watching.
For more on IFC's 2008 election coverage, Uncut, go to IFC.com. In North Carolina, he had a speech where he basically said that the opponent will pounce on every gaffe we make.
It's like Charlie Rose, these questions that go on and on. I feel like I'm writing a book here.
Charlie Rose goes on way longer.
I want you to time it. 20-second questions. At the 20-second mark, I squeeze. This is good discipline right here.
We like to try and see the entertaining and amusing parts of there was one right there of campaigns. Those are my pet houseflies that I have to do that with reporters when I'm interviewing, just to see if I get a reaction. It works all the time. Do you know how long it took me to train those houseflies on the plane?
For example, how did you get such a hot wife?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I do have to say the fact that you guys reported that as if I had actually bowled 10 frames, particularly those of you who were there, that just was underhanded. There's only 7 frames and 2 of them were bowled by a 10-year-old and remember the little kid with the 3-year-old that we carried the ball and put it down the rail, and none of that ever came out. What happened?